Hello, welcome. Uh, we got some thunder. Well, it's kind of past, but there might be some rumbling still. So if you hear that in the background, it just creates a nice ambiance. I love these types of days when we have these storms like this, and it gives me an excuse not to cut the grass. Okay, so today I want to look at part of the Sermon on the Mount. That's Matthew chapter 5, and I'm going to look at verses 25 and 26, and then Psalm 139, 23 through 24. And then I want to bring in the lyrics to a song by Sarah Groves. She wrote the song, it's titled Like a Lake. And I will put a link to the song in the description. And I want to bring that in. All right, so I'm going to read starting in Matthew here. I'm reading from my King James Bible. And it says, "Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou..." Sorry, pardon me. Let me begin again. Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing." Okay, so in reading this, the Lord is saying, by agree, it means to make things right. If you have an issue, this is an adversary. If you have an issue, make it right, and then go on your way. Now, prior to this, we read about making it right with your brother. If you have any grudge against your brother, before you make your sacrifice in the temple, to make things right with your brother. And then it goes into this passage about your adversary, and then it goes into lest he throw you into prison, your adversary, and you won't get out until you pay the last farthing. You're going to be in there a while, the uttermost farthing. Okay, so now it first, on the face of it, it seems a little strange that Jesus is saying make things right with your adversary, and then he goes into talking about prison. Why not talking about your soul, how it benefits your soul. But then in thinking about this, Jesus is not like the philosophers. This is not just a concept, an ideal. If you've studied philosophy, high ideals, lofty, abstract ideals. Jesus is both fully human and fully divine, and he is communicating with people. So he meets people where they're at, the things that they would be concerned about. I could just, and I imagined him saying this as I was reading it, unless your adversary, have you thrown into prison and you won't get out until you pay, the last, to the uttermost farthing. And so he meets people where they're at with their concerns. But when you think of it, what is a prison? A prison is a closed, dark place, almost like a little version of hell. It's closed in, it's dark. And this is definitely not grace. You have to pay. You won't get out until you pay the last farthing. And so this kind of reminds me of like Charles Dickens back in the day, and you find this in some of his novels. When you went into debt, you didn't just go to prison, the entire family did. The entire family went into prison, and you didn't get out until all your debt was paid. Imagine how many of us would be in that prison for a very long time. So, and then the children, they were sent into these factories, these workhouses at a very young age in horrible conditions, and they had to work. And the wages were extremely low, and they had to pay off that debt before the family could be released from prison. So this is definitely not grace. This is definitely not grace. See, Jesus paid our debt. He paid it in full. And that is the opposite of what we see here. This is closed in. You know, when you have an issue with someone, anger, unforgiveness, bitterness, that's what it does. It closes you in. It puts you in a prison, in this dark place. You're not open. You know, you're in this dark place that just cuts you off. Whereas grace frees you. It's open. And that's why Jesus is saying, make it right with your adversary. And then he uses something that they could, you know, grasp onto, something that's concrete, not a lofty ideal. But at the same time, when you think about what a prison is, it's a closed, dark place. And that's what unforgiveness does, and bitterness and anger. It closes us in on ourselves and to God too. It closes us, you know, from being open to God, to receiving what he has for us. And so then on the same day I read from Psalm 139, and I'm going to go there now. Let's see, I got my bookmarker here. 139, and I was reading in 23 and 24, the last two verses of Psalm 139. This is a very intimate picture of the relationship between David and God. And it says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." So, unlike in the Sermon on the Mount, in the prison being closed off, dark, isolated, separated, here David is opening himself up to God and saying, "Search me, God, search me." You know, when we open ourselves to God, when we have an open heart to God, we're not opening ourselves to someone who's going to hurt us. No one loves us more than God. No one ever will love us more than God. And so David is saying, know my heart. Know my heart. Reveal to me, God, those things that are in my heart, and know my thoughts. Search me, you know, like taking a flashlight, searching. This intimacy, this vulnerability, being vulnerable and open before God. And see if there be any wicked way in me. Anything that cuts me off, anything that is going to, nothing can separate us from God, but sometimes we put these things in our life that can distract us or impede our relationship with God. And he says, and lead me in the way everlasting. So it's a very tender, vulnerable thing that David is saying here, to open our hearts, to be vulnerable, and not being vulnerable. See, you have to know, you have to ask God to show you, his goodness, his love, his mercy, his grace, and that comes from being in the Word, and knowing how much God loves you, loves me, loves us. And so this vulnerability, so one place is closed and the other place is open. And so that's why I wanted to bring in, then later in the day, it's interesting how God ties in all these things. Like, I was reading that part from Sermon in the Mount, and then I just chose to read that. I've been going through Psalm 139 and those 2 verses for that day about search me, O God. Taking everything to God, just being open with him, not hiding anything from him, because he knows everything about us anyway, more than we know about ourselves. So just being open to God and taking the things that bother us, our fears, our anxieties, our doubts, whatever it is, and bringing those to God. And so here are the lyrics from Like a Lake, and I encourage you to listen to the song. This one in Floodplain by Sarah Groves. I love them. They're so beautiful. So she uses the metaphor of the lake. It's like for being open, for receiving what God has for us, receiving God. So much hurt and preservation, like a tendril round my soul. Tendril, like a plant, when it has those climbing vines. There's the tendrils that wrap around everything. They can get really tight. Like a tendril around my soul, so much painful information, no clear way on how to hold it. When everything in me is tightening, curling in around this ache. See, curling in, this closed posture. I will lay my heart wide open, like the surface of a lake. Wide open like a lake. It's beautiful. See, a lake is peaceful on the top, and it holds. It holds. It also reflects too. There are no barriers. It's open to receiving, and so, but it's peaceful on the top, and so that's why she's using the lake here as a metaphor for our heart being open. So she says, I will lay my heart wide open like the surface of a lake, wide open like a lake. And I come from the Midwest. We have the 5 Great Lakes, and they're beautiful. Standing at this water's edge, looking in at God's own heart, I've no idea where to begin to swallow up the way things are. Everything in me is drawing in, closing in around this pain. I will lay my heart wide open like the surface of a lake, wide open like a lake. Bring the wind and bring the thunder. Bring the rain till I am tried. When it's over, bring me stillness. Let my face reflect the sky and all the grace and all the wonder of a peace that I can't fake, wide open like a lake. You see, a lake reflects what's around it. It reflects the sky. This is all the grace and all the wonder. And Well, let me back up a bit. Um, bring the wind and bring the thunder, bring the rain till I am tried. That's like what David's saying here, you know. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me. That's what she's saying here. Try me. Bring the wind and bring the thunder. Bring the rain till I am tried. We want our heart to be tried, to to be open to God. So those things that are like the tendrils around our heart that are choking us, we want God to go into those places. We want to be tried. I like that, of a peace that I can't fake. We can sometimes maybe fake like we have peace, but the true peace from God, you can't fake that. Wide open like a lake. Everything in me is tightening, curling in around this ache. I am fighting to stay open. I am fighting to stay open, 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 oh wide open, open like a lake. And that's from songlyrics.com. So I thought this, you know, after I read those two, I heard this song. Wasn't the first time I heard it. I love this song. This one in Floodplain, and on my I did a little video on the floodplain, and I used that song in there too. So yeah, this openness. So opening our heart to God, and when we're being vulnerable and open to God, He doesn't hurt us. He's paid our debt out of that dark prison. So he wants us to be free. We can be open with God. We can tell him what's on our heart. And Jesus is the best friend that you'll ever have. So, father and friend, and you know, it's everything. It's basically everything to us. So yeah, check out the song in the description and have a great day.